Welcome to the Tamarind Learning Podcast, where host Dr. Kirby Ross-Plock speaks with experts on many topics relevant in the ultra-high net worth family wealth management space. Kirby is author of several books, including The Complete Family Office Handbook, and shares her expertise consulting with families and family offices. Kirby is also the founder of Tamarind Learning, an online wealth education platform that develops practical, foundational learning programs for beneficiaries to help them prepare for responsible stewardship of wealth.
In this episode of the Tamarind Learning Podcast, I welcome Dr. Dennis Jaffe. He's author of Borrowed from Your Grandchildren, The Evolution of 100-Year Family Enterprises, and Cross Cultures, How Global Families Negotiate Change Across Generations, to discuss modern examples of family wealth stewardship.
Welcome to the Tamarind Learning Podcast. Today we're talking about this topic of stewardship, and I'm thrilled to have Dr. Dennis Jaffe with us, who's going to share more about his thoughts and ideas about the topic, and also because he's written one of the most voluminous, luminary books called Borrowed from Your Grandchildren, The Evolution of 100-Year Family Enterprises, among other incredible books such as Cross Cultures, How Global Families Negotiate Change Across Generations, Stewardship in Your Family Enterprise, Developing Responsible Family Leadership Across Generations, and Working with the Ones You Love. All of these books, he's amassed tremendous wisdom and has great global insights in his teaching, consulting. He's won numerous awards from the Family Firm Institute. He won the 2017 International Award for Service. In 2005, he received the prestigious Beckhart Award. In 2020, he was special commendation as an individual thought leader in the space of wealth management by the Family Wealth Report. And Dennis has a BA degree in philosophy, a master's in management, and PhD in sociology from Yale. So we are thrilled to have Dennis here today, and I'm thrilled to dig into this important topic of stewardship. So Dennis, let's think about stewardship because it has so many connotations. Can you give us your modern take on what it means to be a good steward?
Well, it's a tremendously deep and central topic for family enterprises, so much so that I actually used it in the title of one of my books. And so the idea of stewardship is to help the next generation kind of develop a clearer sense of what it means to be an heir and a participant in the family wealth. So ownership has a kind of a personal meaning to most people, which is it's mine. I can do with it what I want. I have this new sweater, my sweater. But the idea of stewardship adds another dimension, and this is really important to families. The idea that there's a connotation of serving and taking care of the resource that you have. So you have the wealth, and it's yours, but it's not yours because it's yours to kind of have and enjoy. But there's also a responsibility connected to it, and this is what families are increasingly teaching their next generation. So the idea that you are an owner, but that doesn't give you an unlimited license, that there's some sense that the family will also contain people that haven't been born yet, and they want to benefit from this. And if you use it up or kind of overuse it, then it won't be available for them. So it's a discussion of that getting this wonderful gift from the family also entails some responsibility and some limits that family members don't ordinarily think about, and that therefore they have to discuss and make clear to members of the next generation that the nature of this gift includes a responsibility for stewardship.
Excellent. And when we think about this concept, what are some of the characteristics or values that you feel like families espouse as it relates to stewardship? I mean, how does it connect? You talked about perpetuating, feeling like responsible to carry on. Tell us more about how that shows up. I mean, you've written some incredible books, but tell us how you see that show up in different families.
Well, one thing that I've learned, I think all of us have learned, is that you don't instill stewardship by ordering people or delivering an edict. You will be a steward. Stewardship is a learning process, and so what I'd say is the values are really the implications of the concept itself. So the first one is that when you get the gift from the family also has to inform and teach the next generation exactly what that means. What does it mean to be a steward? Does it mean you can't live well? Does it mean that you can't touch it? What does it mean? So that there's a learning process, and that includes discussions in the family of what does it mean to be a steward? What kind of a life do we lead? What is this money for? What do we want to see happen in the world because we're wealthy? So there's a lot of conversations that, let's say, people that don't have this legacy don't have to have. And so another part of the ethic is that these conversations are not held in the lawyer's office necessarily, or the held individually. These are collective conversations, and they bring the family together. And the family talks about it. And the family, next generation, comes to see, aha, I see why stewardship is important, and I see why it's meaningful for me. So there's a kind of discussion of the social commitment, a discussion of what do we want to accomplish, what do we, and there's another element which I think is tremendously important, which is with the shared legacy and the stewardship comes some commitment to do something together that's more than just individual. Just being a good person is certainly fine and wonderful, but with the legacy and the wealth of that's collective in the family starts some discussions about what could we do together? What special thing might we be able to do that if we weren't just a bunch of individual people, we couldn't do? And so the family gets excited about that. So what I'm saying is that you have to shift people from feeling like the stewardship responsibility is a burden to the idea that the stewardship responsibility is really a capability and an opportunity to really do something that's meaningful and important to the next generation with the family wealth.
I love that. I love that idea of stewardship as an opportunity and as a connection point for not just you as an individual, but to broaden and to make it a shared family experience that has weight and meaning that will likely have impact for generations to come if you set that expectation early on. I'm wondering if you have one or two families in mind, or don't have to name names, but just examples of how you've seen this take shape, because I'm sure our listeners would love to know more about what it looks like.
Well, so this is not a theoretical concept. It's not my idea of what's a good thing. That in the book and in my study, I interviewed 100 families that had gotten together and been stewards across multiple generations all over the world. So this is what I learned is I have hundreds of interviews and stories of families, and this is what these families do. So here are two kind of interesting example. One, and these examples are ones that are not just one family, but I've seen this in different forms in several families. So a third or fourth generation young person may be in a family where that generation now has 30, 40, even 60 or 80 people. So they're not a family or a household anymore. They're kind of a community of people. And this next generation a person kind of grows up and sees, gee, the people are moving different places. We don't live in the same town anymore. We're getting education. Some of us are living even in different countries. We're expanding. But it seems like the people in our generation are really, really interesting. And we just don't know each other well. We're not really connected. And so this person becomes what we call a family champion. and begins to take stewardship as being, let's get our generation together to kind of talk about who we are, to get to know each other. If we don't know each other, we don't really, we may benefit, but we don't really connect. So the next generation person begins to bring the cohort, the generation together. And this is very common in later generation families, that the new generation has to come together, get to know each other, get engaged, learn about the wonderful things that they're doing, sharing and networking. And so this is a task that the parents can't do for the children. The children has to do it, and then he or she has to reach out and bring everybody together, and also get the older generation on board, because sometimes this can be an expensive venture. So that's a great example of stewardship, and it's a common one, and it's someone who takes the message to heart and begins to do it. Another, again, common example, in the sense that it was several families, is a family member who says, wow, we have a great business. We've created a great company. And maybe in addition to the company, we have other investments. We have a family office. We have, we have a foundation. There's a lot of things that we do, but it's not complete. That, for example, in the legacy business that we have, we're not paying attention enough to sustainability, to the future of the environment. Our investments are making us wonderful, kind of returns and creating more wealth for the family, but I'm not really sure that they're fulfilling our values to create a world for the next generation. So they begin to convene a conversation about sustainability. And this is something that great large networks like the Family Business Network, which is a global network of families, have started to do, which is to say families should come together and talk about their values and talk about sustainability, and even reach out, even if they don't work in the business, reach out to the business, look at their investments, and begin to say, what is our score? What is our relationship with long-term sustainability? And what I find is that a member of the family kind of gets religion about this and gets excited, but it doesn't stop there, and it doesn't become an argument, with their father or mother. But it really is something that where the generation gets together and say, let's build upon what we have. Let's not throw it out. Let's not blame each other, but let's build, create some change in the business, the investments, the things that we do, so that it more clearly represents our social commitment. And these are wonderful opportunities. And again, these are ones that each of these I see in many families as a way of practicing and implementing their vision of stewardship and make it real for the family.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much for those two great examples. The first one around stewardship really being driven by the up and coming generation, as you call them, the family champion, who might inspire a conversation with the more senior generation to talk about the collective and what stewardship means. And then the second one I heard you say was more focused on sustainability and the impact that sustainability might have in relationship to a family enterprise or to a collective family trying to identify how are they going to sustain this? What does this look like? And does it have maybe some social impact connotation, or how does it, again, bring family together? I love both of those examples. Dennis, in closing, are there any one or two takeaways that you think are most critical to stewardship and being successful at it?
Well, I would say the takeaway is every family, whatever their level of wealth, has to have a conversation. Most families generally don't talk about wealth, and they therefore just kind of leave it for everybody to make their own conclusions. And I think the first step of every family is to get together and to say, what does our wealth mean to us in terms of our lives? How does it affect us? And most importantly, what is our wealth for? So we have more wealth than we can use. we have more wealth in some cases than we can even imagine. What do we want it to do? What's it for? And that seems like a silly question, but it's not. You can only in a super wealthy family, there's only very little that you can do. Your life is fine, but the question of what it's for and where you're going is the family's values and vision. And this is a conversation that starts over the dinner table with the wealthy parents and they're now kind of grown up children or growing children to say this is what we have and this is who we are and what we stand for.
Great final thoughts. So again, thank you so much for being here on the Tamarind Learning Podcast. Dennis's thoughts and ideas also show up in Chapter 4 of the Complete Family Office Handbook, the second edition that's released November 9th, 2020. And Dennis has just so much incredible information, and you can learn more about Dennis at his website. You want to tell us your website, Dennis?
Well, very simple. It's DennisJaffe.com, and you just go onto it, and it's really a library and a resource center. So I have about 70 or 80 articles and publications that you can download, and other than leaving your contact information, so which I don't use for anything other than telling people, sharing other resources. You can download all kinds of resources and articles and that talk about some of these issues.
And tools. You've got values cards. You've created
Right.
a lot of different helpful tools. Again, back to the first step being having those conversations. And sometimes you need conversation aids, which I think you've created some great ones that can be extraordinarily helpful. So as your host today, Kirby Rossblock, I'm thrilled to have spent the time with you, Dennis. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And we look forward to the more research, the more writing, the more thought leadership that you bring to this space. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Your platform and the work that you've done is such a service to everybody as well. Thank you, Kirby.